Billionaire tech mogul accidentally buys vineyard, how a corporate mistake reunited him with his college sweetheart. One signature line. That's all it took to change everything. A tech billionaire's worst mistake. A vineyard owner's worst nightmare. What begins as a corporate disaster transforms into something neither expected. Welcome back to Dear Love Diaries, where real stories touch real hearts. I'm so glad you're joining me today for a tale that proves sometimes our biggest mistakes lead to our greatest happiness. If you're new here, this channel is dedicated to sharing love stories that remind us fate works in mysterious ways, often bringing people together through the most unexpected circumstances. Today's story is particularly special, a reminder that timing is everything in love, and that sometimes, the universe has plans that far exceed our own. It's about missed opportunities, second chances, and finding the courage to be vulnerable again despite past hurts. Before we dive in, I'd love to know where you're watching from today. Drop your location in the comments below. This story spans from San Francisco's tech world to the gorgeous vineyards of Northern California. The contrast between sleek high-rises and rolling hills of grapevines forms the perfect backdrop for our two main characters' reunion. Anyone watching from either place? Let me know. And if you've ever had a twist of fate change your life, I'd love to hear about that too. Was there a moment that seemed like a disaster at first but led you somewhere wonderful? A missed flight that resulted in meeting someone special? A wrong turn that led to the right destination? Now, let's settle in and discover how an accidental purchase brought two college sweethearts face to face after 15 years apart. The first rays of morning light filter through the automated blinds of Elijah Castellanos' penthouse apartment, gradually illuminating the minimalist space according to the precise schedule he's programmed. At exactly 5:30 a.m., Elijah is already awake, scrolling through market reports on his tablet while his smart home system brews his artisanal coffee to the exact temperature he prefers. "Good morning, Mr. Castellanos," comes the voice of his AI assistant. "You have 3 board meetings today, the quarterly earnings call at noon, and 15 urgent emails requiring your response." Elijah sighs, running a hand over his clean-shaven face. "Read me the top priority emails while I get ready." As he moves through his morning routine, a precisely timed workout, a protein-rich breakfast eaten while reviewing company data, a quick shower before donning one of his identical charcoal suits, there's an efficiency that borders on emptiness. His apartment, though filled with expensive furniture and cutting-edge technology, lacks personal touches. No photos adorn the walls, no mementos sit on shelves. It's a space designed for function, not emotion. By 7 a.m., Elijah is stepping into his electric luxury car, headed toward the gleaming Tech Fusion headquarters he built from nothing. 15 years ago, it was just an idea in a Stanford dorm room. Now, it's a tech empire valued at billions, with Elijah at its helm. "You're early again," Howard Holmes, his COO and oldest friend, comments when Elijah strides into the office. "Did you sleep at all last night?" "Enough," Elijah responds dismissively, already focused on his phone. Howard's concern is evident. "You know, normal humans occasionally take breaks. Maybe even go on dates. Have you tried that revolutionary concept lately?" Elijah's jaw tightens. "I don't have time for distractions. Howell Enterprises is breathing down our necks with their new software launch. We need to move faster." "All work and no play, Elijah," Howard mutters, following him toward the conference room. "This is why I'm the one with the wife and kids while you have, what exactly? Stock options?" Elijah ignores the jab, though it lands closer to home than he'd admit. Growing up with parents who struggled financially taught him never to take security for granted. Every minute spent on leisure feels like tempting fate, like inviting back the uncertainty that haunted his childhood. Success is his shield, and he's built it layer by layer, year after year. But sometimes, in rare quiet moments, he wonders if Howard might be right. If there should be more to life than quarterly earnings and market share. 40 miles north, as dawn breaks over Legacy Hill Vineyard, Sarah Baldwin has already been awake for an hour. Unlike Elijah's programmed morning, hers begins with a ritual that connects her to the land. Walking through the morning dew-covered vines, checking the developing grapes with her own hands, feeling the soil between her fingers. "Morning, Miss Baldwin," calls Manuel, one of her longest-serving vineyard workers, as he adjusts an irrigation line. "We're expecting heat today. Might want to check the new plantings on the east slope." "Already on my list," Sarah responds with a warm smile, her voice carrying the easy confidence of someone who knows her land intimately. "How's your son doing at college? Still studying viticulture?" Manuel's face lights up at the personal question. "Top of his class. He's hoping to intern here next summer, if that's okay with you." "I'd be delighted," Sarah says genuinely. "We need more passionate young people in this industry." This is how Sarah leads, through connection, through knowing not just her vineyard but her people. Her father, James Baldwin, taught her that Legacy Hill's strength came from the community that tended it, not just the soil that nurtured its vines. Back at the main house, Sarah finds Lorraine, her assistant and best friend since high school, organizing the day's schedule in the rustic office that was once her father's. "You're out there bonding with the grapes again?" Lorraine teases, pushing her glasses up her nose. "I swear, you have more intimate relationships with those vines than with actual humans." Sarah laughs, pouring herself coffee from the French press. "The vines are less complicated. They just need sunshine, water, and time." "Speaking of time," Lorraine says, her voice taking on a more serious tone, "it's been over a year since you went on an actual date. That vineyard manager from Sonoma was interested, remember?" Sarah's smile fades slightly. "He was looking for a merger more than a relationship. I could see it in his eyes when he toured the property. Calculating acreage, not getting to know me." "Not everyone is trying to take advantage of you," Lorraine says gently. "In this industry? As a black woman running one of the few black-owned vineyards in the region? Experience suggests otherwise." Sarah's tone isn't bitter, just matter-of-fact. "Dad faced the same challenges. Every handshake hiding an agenda. James Baldwin had broken barriers when he purchased Legacy Hill 25 years ago, transforming from successful corporate lawyer to pioneering vineyard owner. He'd faced skepticism, sometimes outright hostility, but his legal mind and determination had built Legacy Hill into a respected name. When he'd fallen ill 5 years ago, Sarah had left her promising marketing career to take over, determined to honor his legacy. Under her guidance, Legacy Hill's wines had won critical acclaim, particularly their signature Cabernet blend, Heritage Reserve. But success hadn't made the industry's challenges disappear. If anything, it had intensified them, bringing more offers from larger vineyards and corporations looking to absorb the property. "Just promise me you won't become one with the vines completely," Lorraine says, returning to her teasing tone. "The last thing I need is to find you photosynthesizing in the fields." Sarah laughs again, the sound bright in the morning quiet. "No promises. Now, what's on the agenda today?" Meanwhile, in San Francisco, Elijah is facing a boardroom of increasingly anxious investors. Market projections flash on screens around the room, showing TechFusion's declining growth curve alongside the rising line of Richard Howell's competing company. "We need to expand aggressively," says Victoria Miles, head of the investment group that backed TechFusion from its early days. "Howell is acquiring smaller tech companies faster than we can approach them. Our processes are more thorough," Elijah argues, standing at the head of the table. "We don't just buy companies for the sake of growth. We integrate them meaningfully. Meaningful integration won't matter if Howell corners the market," another investor counters. "We need to move faster, be more decisive." Elijah feels the pressure mounting. TechFusion had revolutionized digital security systems, but in the tech world, innovation has a heartbreakingly short shelf life. What was groundbreaking yesterday is obsolete tomorrow. The need to constantly evolve, to stay ahead, is relentless. I've identified several promising acquisitions, Elijah assures them, projecting confidence he doesn't entirely feel. We're moving on them immediately. As if on cue, his assistant enters with a stack of documents. These need your signature right away, Mr. Castellanos. The legal team has vetted them for the acquisitions you approved yesterday. Elijah nods, reaching for the documents even as his phone rings with an urgent call from development. As he juggles the call and the papers, his focus splits. His eyes scan the top pages: tech startups in Seattle, a data analytics firm in Boston, a software developer in Austin, all aligning with TechFusion's expansion strategy. With the phone pressed between ear and shoulder, he signs page after page with his electronic stylus, only half registering the companies he's acquiring. He trusts his team's vetting process. They know what TechFusion needs. Until his assistant, returning to collect the signed documents, pauses with a slight frown. Mr. Castellanos, did you review the Legacy Hill acquisition? It wasn't on your original list. Legacy Hill? Elijah murmurs, still focused on his phone call. I'm sure it's fine. The legal team approved it, right? The assistant nods hesitantly, and Elijah waves her off, turning his attention back to the crisis on the phone. He doesn't notice how the final signature he just provided changes everything, not just for his company, but for the woman he hasn't seen in 15 years. At Legacy Hill Vineyard, Sarah is in her office reviewing sales projections when the email arrives. The subject line reads simply, "Notification of ownership transfer, Legacy Hill Vineyard and Winery." Her heart stops as she opens it, expecting another attempt by a large corporation to pressure her into selling. But what she reads makes her blood run cold. This formal notification confirms the legal transfer of ownership of Legacy Hill Vineyard and Winery to TechFusion Incorporated, effective immediately, as per the signed acquisition agreement. All further correspondence should be directed to TechFusion's legal department or its CEO, Elijah Castellanos. The tablet nearly slips from Sarah's hands as she reads the name. Elijah Castellanos. A name she hasn't allowed herself to say aloud in 15 years. A name that once meant everything. And now, somehow, he owns her family's vineyard. No, she whispers, the word a denial of what can't possibly be true. This is impossible. If you've ever made a decision you instantly regretted, or found yourself reconnecting with someone from your past, hit that subscribe button right now. And let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I always love seeing how far these stories reach. The notification on Sarah's screen doesn't disappear, no matter how many times she blinks. Somewhere in San Francisco, Elijah Castellanos has just accidentally purchased the vineyard she's poured her heart and soul into. The vineyard her father entrusted to her. The vineyard that represents her family's legacy. The question is, was this really just a mistake, or was the universe conspiring to bring these two back together? Chapter 2. What do you mean I can't undo it? Elijah demands, pacing the length of his office while his legal team exchanges uncomfortable glances on the video call displayed on his wall screen. It was clearly a mistake. I never intended to purchase a vineyard. Unfortunately, Mr. Castellanos, the head of legal explains, her tone professional but sympathetic, your electronic signature on the acquisition documents constitutes legally binding acceptance of the terms. The funds have already been transferred, and ownership has officially changed hands. How did a vineyard even get included with tech acquisitions? Elijah runs his hands through his hair, a rare display of dishevelment for a man known for his composure. A junior lawyer clears his throat nervously. The property was bundled with the Northern California Tech campus we were acquiring. The paperwork listed all assets clearly, but I didn't read every page because I was handling a crisis in development, Elijah finishes, the weight of his carelessness sinking in. Fine. Sell it immediately. Find a buyer. That could be complicated, the head lawyer says cautiously. Real estate transactions, especially for agricultural properties, take time. And there might be tax implications if we sell too quickly after acquisition. Elijah stops pacing, a realization dawning on him. Wait. What's the name of this vineyard again? Legacy Hill Vineyard and Winery, one of the lawyers reads from his documents. The color drains from Elijah's face. Who was the previous owner? A Sarah Baldwin. The name hits him like a physical blow, transporting him instantly back 15 years to a Stanford classroom, to laughing brown eyes and dreams shared under California stars. To promises made and broken. Elijah? Howard's voice breaks through his thoughts. His friend has been silently observing the video call from a corner of the office. You know this place? Elijah composes himself quickly. I'm familiar with the previous owner. Howard's eyebrows rise at Elijah's careful tone. After the lawyers disconnect with promises to explore options, Howard crosses his arms. Familiar how? You look like you've seen a ghost. Something like that, Elijah mutters, staring out at the San Francisco skyline. Sarah Baldwin and I were close. At Stanford. Close as in. We were together for almost 2 years. The admission costs him something to say aloud. She was going to be part of the original Tech Fusion team, actually. We had it all planned out. Howard's eyes widen. Wait, this is the Sarah? The one you never talk about? The reason you work through every Valentine's Day like it's personally offended you? Elijah's jaw tightens. That was a long time ago. 15 years isn't that long when you've never had a relationship last more than 3 months since, Howard points out bluntly. And now you've accidentally bought her vineyard? That's not coincidence, that's the universe with a twisted sense of humor. The universe has nothing to do with it, Elijah says sharply. It was a clerical error that needs to be fixed. Howard studies his friend thoughtfully. Maybe you should handle this personally. What? Go see her. Explain what happened face to face. It's the decent thing to do. Elijah almost protests, but something stops him. Perhaps a flicker of curiosity about the woman Sarah Baldwin has become. Or perhaps the nagging sense that he owes her at least this much, after everything. Fine, he concedes. I'll fly up tomorrow. As the sleek black Tesla winds its way through the country roads leading to Legacy Hill Vineyard, Elijah fights the growing tension in his chest. The landscape becomes increasingly rural, tall office buildings giving way to rolling hills covered with neat rows of grapevines. It's a world away from his life in San Francisco, yet strangely familiar, like a dream half-remembered. When he pulls up to the main house, a tastefully renovated Victorian farmhouse with a wide porch and climbing roses, he sits in the car for a moment, gathering his resolve. This is just business, he reminds himself. A mistake to be corrected. But when Sarah Baldwin emerges from the house at the sound of his car, the years collapse like a house of cards. She stands on the porch steps, arms crossed, her posture radiating a mixture of anger and wariness. The college girl he remembered has matured into a striking woman, her hair styled in elegant twists, her simple linen dress and boots speaking to her life among the vines. The afternoon sunlight catches the warm undertones in her brown skin, and for a moment, Elijah forgets why he's come. Then her voice, cooler than he's ever heard it, breaks the spell. 15 years of silence, and now you show up to take my vineyard? That's low, even for someone who abandoned me without looking back. Elijah steps out of his car, conscious suddenly of how out of place his tailored suit and Italian shoes look here. Hello, Sarah. That's all you have to say? Hello, Sarah. Her voice rises slightly. After you buy my family's vineyard out from under me? It was a mistake, he says immediately, moving closer but stopping when she tenses. I never intended to purchase Legacy Hill. It was bundled with another property, and I signed without. Without reading the fine print? Sarah's laugh is bitter. The famous Elijah Castellanos, tech mastermind, didn't read what he was signing? You expect me to believe that? It's the truth. He meets her gaze directly. I'm here to fix it. We can reverse the sale. It's not that simple, Sarah cuts him off. Do you have any idea what this vineyard means to my family? To the community that depends on it? This isn't just property to be bought and sold on a whim. Before Elijah can respond, the front door opens again, and an older black man with silver-streaked hair and a cane steps out. Though slightly stooped and thinner than Elijah remembers from photographs, James Baldwin's presence still commands respect. Sarah? Who's our visitor? His gaze shifts to Elijah, curious at first, then widening in recognition. Wait, aren't you the young man from Sarah's Stanford days? The one with the big tech ideas? Dad, Sarah says, her tone a warning, this is Elijah Castellanos. He's the CEO of Tech Fusion now. And apparently, the new owner of Legacy Hill. James Baldwin's expression shifts between surprise and something more calculating. Is that so? Well, Mr. Castellanos, this is unexpected. It was an unintentional acquisition, sir, Elijah explains, feeling oddly like a college boy again under the older man's scrutiny. I'm here to discuss returning ownership to your daughter. How gracious, Sarah says, the sarcasm evident. Returning what was never yours to take. James places a steadying hand on his daughter's shoulder. Why don't we continue this discussion inside? Business is better conducted over a glass of wine, wouldn't you agree, Mr. Castellanos? The tension follows them into the house, settling around them in the tastefully furnished living room that doubles as a tasting area for vineyard visitors. The walls are adorned with photographs chronicling Legacy Hill's history, including several of Sarah and her father working the harvest, their faces alight with shared purpose. I'll sell the vineyard back to you immediately, Elijah states once they're seated, eager to resolve the situation. At the same price, naturally. Sarah exchanges a look with her father before responding. That's not possible right now. What do you mean? We don't have the liquid capital, she admits, the words clearly difficult. The funds from the sale have already been distributed to our accounts receivable. We've been expanding our sustainable farming practices, investing in new equipment. Dad's medical bills. She stops herself. The point is, we can't simply buy it back at the moment. Elijah absorbs this, recalculating. Then I'll hold the property until you can. No rush. So we become tenants on our own land? Sarah shakes her head. Working for Tech Fusion while we try to save enough to buy back what's rightfully ours? That's not what I meant, Elijah begins, but a new voice interrupts. Sarah? Your afternoon appointment is here, but I can reschedule if. Lorraine stops abruptly in the doorway, her eyes narrowing as she recognizes Elijah. You've got to be kidding me. Lorraine, Elijah acknowledges, remembering Sarah's fiercely loyal friend from college. Don't Lorraine me, she snaps, moving to stand protectively beside Sarah. 15 years without so much as a text, and now you swoop in to take the vineyard? Some things never change. Still leaving destruction in your wake, just on a bigger scale now. Lorraine, James says gently, perhaps we should give them a moment to discuss this privately. I'm not leaving her alone with him, Lorraine declares. Not after last time. The tension in the room thickens, years of unspoken history pressing down on all of them. Elijah's phone chooses that moment to ring, Howard's ringtone. I need to take this, he says, stepping outside onto the porch. Howard? What's going on? Where are you? Howard sounds tense. Howell just made a move. He's announced acquisition of 3 companies we were negotiating with, and he's hinting he has more surprises coming. The board is calling an emergency meeting. Elijah curses under his breath. I'm still at the vineyard. Things are complicated. You need to get back here, Howard insists. I can only hold them off so long. As Elijah ends the call, he turns to find Sarah watching him from the doorway, her expression unreadable. "Crisis at the Empire?" she asks, and he can't tell if the edge in her voice is sarcasm or something else. "Something like that," he admits. "I need to get back to San Francisco, but we aren't finished here. Can we meet again tomorrow? Discuss options properly?" Sarah studies him for a long moment, as if searching for something in his face. "Fine. Tomorrow afternoon." "But Elijah." Her voice softens almost imperceptibly. "Don't make promises you don't intend to keep. You've already filled your quota on those with me." The words hit harder than any accusation could, because they contain no anger, only a quiet resignation that suggests she expected nothing else from him. As Elijah drives away from Legacy Hill, his mind should be on the crisis waiting in San Francisco. Instead, it keeps returning to a memory: Sarah as he first saw her, 19 years old, standing up in their entrepreneurship class to challenge the professor's assumption about market demographics. Her confidence, her intelligence, the way the afternoon light through the classroom windows had illuminated her smile when he'd backed up her point. "We're going to change the world," she'd told him later that day, the first time they'd gotten coffee together. "Just wait and see." He'd believed her then. They'd both believed in so many things. Are you Team Elijah or Team Sarah right now? Let me know in the comments. And if you're enjoying this story of unexpected reunions and second chances, give this video a thumbs up. Sometimes the people we were meant to be with come back into our lives in the most unexpected ways. For Sarah and Elijah, chance has forced them to confront not just their present circumstances, but 15 years of silence and unanswered questions. I'll be sharing more details about their college romance in just a moment, so stay tuned. Chapter 3. The Tech Fusion boardroom crackles with tension as Elijah strides in, still in the same suit he wore to the vineyard, now slightly rumpled from the rushed journey back. All eyes turn to him, expressions ranging from concern to barely concealed panic. "Where have you been?" Victoria Miles demands, not bothering with pleasantries. "Howell has been making moves all day." Handling an unexpected acquisition issue, Elijah responds smoothly, taking his place at the head of the table. "Howard briefed me on the way." "What's our current position?" Charts appear on the screen surrounding them, showing Tech Fusion stock dipping as news of Howell's aggressive acquisition spreads. Howard stands, pointing to specific data points. "Howell snatched 3 startups we were in talks with, all announcing within hours of each other for maximum impact. Our stock is down 8% and falling. But that's not the worst part." Howard swipes to a new screen showing a satellite image. "One of our analysts discovered Howell is quietly acquiring land adjacent to that Northern California tech campus we just purchased. The one that came with the vineyard." Elijah stiffens. "Why would he want land there?" "Location," another board member interjects. "That area is perfect for the kind of expansive tech campus Howell's been talking about building, away from city restrictions but close enough to attract top talent who want country living with city access." Victoria leans forward, her sharp gaze fixed on Elijah. "The vineyard you accidentally acquired, Legacy Hill, was it? It's positioned right in the middle of what would otherwise be a perfect contiguous property for Howell." The implication sinks in slowly. "You're saying he might want the vineyard too?" "Our intelligence suggests he's been trying to acquire it for months," Howard confirms. The owner was apparently quite resistant to selling. An image of Sarah's fierce expression as she confronted him flashes in Elijah's mind. Yes, resistance would be exactly her response to corporate pressure. Victoria's calculating expression sharpens. This accidental acquisition might be a blessing in disguise. That vineyard could be valuable leverage against Howell. If he wants to build there, he'll need that land. "It's not leverage," Elijah says automatically. "It's someone's home. Their family legacy." The room falls silent, surprised by his uncharacteristic sentimentality. Howard shoots him a knowing look that Elijah pointedly ignores. Since when do we factor emotional attachments into business decisions? Victoria asks coolly. If this vineyard gives us an advantage over Howell, we'd be fools not to use it. Elijah feels strangely torn, caught between the hardline business approach that has always guided Tech Fusion and the memory of Sarah standing on her porch, defending her family's legacy. Let me handle the vineyard situation, he says finally. In the meantime, I want a complete analysis of Howell's recent moves and potential countermeasures. There are other ways to fight back besides using innocent bystanders as pawns. As the meeting continues, strategies being debated around him, Elijah finds his thoughts repeatedly drifting back to Legacy Hill. To Sarah. When he finally returns to his office, Howard follows, closing the door behind him. You're thinking about her, Howard observes bluntly. I'm thinking about the vineyard situation, Elijah corrects. Same thing. Howard drops into a chair across from Elijah's desk. Look, I've known you since before Tech Fusion was even an idea. I remember how you were with Sarah. I also remember how you were after she left. She didn't leave, Elijah says quietly. She went home to take care of her father. I was the one who didn't follow. And now fate has thrown you back together. Howard leans forward. Maybe this isn't just about business, Elijah. Maybe you need to resolve things with her, one way or another. Elijah sighs, running a hand over his face. It's been 15 years, Howard. Whatever was between us is ancient history. Then explain why you've never had a relationship last longer than it takes to launch a new product, Howard challenges. Why every woman you date eventually gives up because you're emotionally unavailable. That's not. It is, and you know it. Howard's tone softens. Go back to the vineyard. Work out a solution that makes sense for business but doesn't crush her dreams in the process. And maybe, just maybe, figure out if there's still something there worth exploring. At Legacy Hill Vineyard, Sarah faces her own crisis. Word has spread quickly among the workers that ownership has changed hands, and a small group has gathered in the main processing building, their faces etched with worry. Is it true? Manuel asks, speaking for the group. Has the vineyard been sold to some tech company? Sarah takes a deep breath, addressing them with the straightforward honesty that has earned their loyalty. There's been a complication with ownership, yes. But I'm working to resolve it. Legacy Hill is still Legacy Hill, and your jobs are secure. We heard rumors that Silicon Valley companies want to build here, another worker says nervously. That they'd tear out the vines for office buildings. That's not happening, Sarah assures them firmly, even as her own stomach knots with uncertainty. I promise you, I won't let anyone destroy what we've built together. As the workers disperse, somewhat reassured, Lorraine approaches Sarah with a troubled expression. 3 distributors have called already. They're nervous about the ownership change affecting their contracts. Sarah closes her eyes briefly. Set up calls with each of them for tomorrow. I'll reassure them personally. And your father's specialist called, Lorraine adds more quietly. His blood pressure was elevated at his appointment today. The doctor thinks it might be stress-related. Sarah's composure finally cracks slightly. This is exactly what we don't need right now. Dad was just starting to fully recover, and now. She trails off, the weight of responsibility pressing down on her shoulders. Lorraine squeezes her arm supportively. You should get some rest. You've been going since dawn. But rest proves elusive. Long after the vineyard has fallen quiet, Sarah sits at her desk, poring over financial documents, searching for a solution that doesn't seem to exist. Legacy Hill's value is tied up in its land and equipment. The liquid assets are minimal compared to what would be needed to buy back ownership. As the night deepens, Sarah finds herself drawn to an old wooden box on her bookshelf. Inside are mementos from her time at Stanford. Photos, ticket stubs, and a business plan written in 2 distinct handwriting styles. Hers and Elijah's. Tech Fusion and Vine, the cover reads, their original vision for a company that would combine his technological innovation with her marketing expertise and connection to the wine industry. They'd stayed up all night working on it, fueled by caffeine and dreams, certain they would change the world together. Sarah traces her fingers over Elijah's handwriting, remembering the boy he'd been before success had shaped him into someone she barely recognized today. Brilliant but warm. Ambitious but kind. So different from the cool, corporate figure who'd stood on her porch that afternoon. She's so lost in memories that she doesn't hear her father's approach until he speaks from the doorway. I remember the day you brought him home during spring break, James says softly. He was so nervous to meet me, kept calling me, sir, no matter how many times I told him to use my name. Sarah quickly closes the box. Dad, you should be resting. James eases himself into a chair across from her. So should you. But here we are, both losing sleep over Elijah Castellanos. His expression turns serious. Talk to me, baby girl. What really happened between you two back then? Sarah sighs, the weight of old pain in her breath. You know what happened. You got sick. I came home to help. He stayed to build his company. That's what happened on the surface, James acknowledges. But I always wondered about what went on underneath. You never really explained why there was no middle ground. Why it had to be all or nothing. Because I gave him an ultimatum, Sarah thinks but doesn't say. Because I told him if he loved me, he'd follow me home. Because I was 21 and terrified of losing you, and I couldn't bear the thought of trying to balance everything at once. Instead, she says simply, we wanted different things. And now? James asks gently. What do you want now, Sarah? The question hangs between them, unanswerable in the complexity of the present situation. Sarah's saved from responding by her phone chiming with a message. It's from an unknown number, but the content makes the sender immediately clear. I'll be at the vineyard tomorrow at 10 a.m. I have a proposal that might work for both of us. Elijah. Miles away in his penthouse, Elijah sets down his phone after sending the message. The lights of San Francisco glitter below him, but for once, the view doesn't fill him with the usual satisfaction. Instead, he finds himself wondering what Legacy Hill looks like under the stars, how the night air might smell among the vines. Next to him on the couch, his laptop displays the proposal he spent hours crafting, a compromise that would keep Sarah in control of the vineyard while providing Tech Fusion with the strategic advantage it needs against Howell. It's a solution that makes business sense, he tells himself. That's all. But deep down, he knows there's more to it. The box of old Stanford memorabilia he'd impulsively dug out of storage tells another story, as does the fact that he spent the evening looking through photos of a younger, happier version of himself with his arms around a beaming Sarah. He picks up a particular photo, both of them in Stanford Business School sweatshirts, taken the day they'd submitted their joint project that had earned the highest grade in the class. The project that later became the foundation for Tech Fusion, though Sarah's contributions had gradually been written out of the company's origin story. It had been their first semester together, when everything still lay ahead of them. They'd been paired as project partners in their entrepreneurship class. The serious, driven engineering student from a middle-class family who worked 3 jobs to afford tuition, and the vibrant, insightful marketing major whose lawyer father had taught her to analyze markets like legal cases. You need to relax, Sarah had told him after their 3rd straight hour in the library. Your brain works better when you're not trying to force it. I don't have the luxury of relaxation, he'd responded, not looking up from his notes. Some of us are on scholarship. Instead of being offended, she'd laughed, a warm sound that had finally made him look up. And some of us know that burning out won't get the project done. Come on, Edison. 1 coffee break won't kill your GPA. Edison? Because you're all work and no sleep, like Thomas Edison, she'd explained, already packing up his books despite his protests. Except I bet even he took coffee breaks. He'd followed her reluctantly to the campus coffee shop, certain this was a waste of precious study time. But somehow, over one coffee that turned into 3, they'd come up with the core concept that would earn them an A+ and eventually become TechFusion's founding principle. That was Sarah's gift, not just her intelligence, but her ability to create space where inspiration could flourish. She approached problems sideways, bringing perspectives Elijah would never have considered. Where he saw obstacles, she saw opportunities. Where he focused on function, she remembered the human element. Together, they'd been unstoppable. Until they weren't. As Elijah sets the photo down, he wonders if that balance, that complementary chemistry, still exists between them. Or if 15 years of separate lives has altered them too fundamentally to ever find that sync again. The next morning finds Elijah arriving at Legacy Hill Vineyard exactly at 10 a.m., this time dressed more appropriately for the setting in casual slacks and a button-down with the sleeves rolled up. The change doesn't go unnoticed by Sarah, who meets him on the porch, her expression guarded but less hostile than the day before. "You look less Silicon Valley today," she observes, offering him a mug of coffee. "Trying to blend in?" "Trying to be practical," he answers, accepting the coffee gratefully. "I thought we could tour the vineyard while we talk. I'd like to understand what I've accidentally purchased before we discuss solutions." Something flickers across Sarah's face, surprise, perhaps, at his interest in the vineyard itself rather than just its value on a balance sheet. "All right. Follow me." What begins as a tense, business-like tour gradually shifts as they move among the vines. Sarah can't help but become animated when explaining the sustainable farming practices she's implemented, the specific characteristics of each varietal they grow, the careful balance of tradition and innovation that makes Legacy Hill wine special. "These vines here," she explains, touching the leaves tenderly, "are from our original planting 25 years ago. Dad insisted on doing it right from the beginning, no chemicals, working with the natural characteristics of the land rather than forcing it to be something it's not." Elijah watches her, struck by the passion in her voice. "That doesn't sound like the most efficient approach." "Efficiency isn't always the point," she responds, meeting his gaze. "Sometimes the longer path yields better results. These vines produce fewer grapes than they might with chemical interventions, but the quality is exceptional. That's the foundation of our heritage reserve, quality over quantity. The parallel to their current situation, and perhaps to their past, isn't lost on either of them." "I've been thinking about solutions," Elijah says as they reach a hilltop overlooking the entire property. "What if, instead of trying to undo what's happened, we found a way to make it work to mutual advantage?" Sarah's expression grows wary again. "What exactly are you proposing?" "A partnership of sorts. TechFusion becomes a silent investor in Legacy Hill. You maintain complete operational control, but we provide capital for modernization, expansion, whatever you need. In return, we gain a strategic foothold in this region, which helps us counter Howell's moves against us." Sarah studies him for a long moment. "So I'd still run the vineyard, but you'd own it?" "On paper, yes. In practice, it would be yours in all the ways that matter." She turns away, looking out over the rolling hills of vines. "Why would you offer this? What's in it for TechFusion beyond this strategic foothold you mentioned?" Elijah hesitates, choosing his words carefully. "Legacy Hill has potential that I don't think has been fully realized. Your sustainable practices, your connection to the community. These are marketable assets in today's environment. With the right technological integration and expanded distribution, this vineyard could become even more successful. So now you're a viticulture expert?" Sarah's voice carries a hint of defensiveness, but there's genuine curiosity beneath it. "No," Elijah admits. "But I recognize untapped potential when I see it. Just like I did at Stanford, when a certain marketing major forced me to take coffee breaks." The reference to their past brings a flicker of a smile to Sarah's lips before she suppresses it. "You always did see the world in terms of potential ROI. And you always saw it in terms of human connections," he counters. Maybe both perspectives have value. They continue walking, the silence between them less tense now, more thoughtful. Sarah stops at a section of newer plantings, checking the irrigation system with practiced hands. "I'd need guarantees," she says finally. "Written assurances that the land won't be developed, that the workers' jobs are protected, that my father can live out his days here without worrying about the future." "Of course," Elijah agrees immediately. "We can draft something that addresses all your concerns." Sarah straightens, meeting his gaze directly. "And I'd need to know why, Elijah. The real reason. Not the business justification, but why you're willing to be so accommodating when I know your board would probably prefer to sell this land to the highest bidder." Before Elijah can formulate a response that doesn't reveal too much of his conflicted feelings, the sound of tires on gravel interrupts them. A sleek black SUV pulls up to the main house, and a tall, silver-haired man in an expensive suit emerges, surveying the property with proprietary interest. "Who's that?" Elijah asks, noting Sarah's suddenly tense posture. "Richard Howell," she says grimly. "Speaking of the highest bidder. Can two people with such different lives find common ground after 15 years apart? Have you ever had to choose between your dreams and your heart? Share your thoughts in the comments." The tension between past and present, between business and personal history, hangs in the air as Sarah and Elijah make their way down the hill toward the unexpected visitor. Richard Howell's presence throws a new complication into an already complex situation, forcing both Sarah and Elijah to confront not just each other, but their priorities. The tension is building, and there's so much more to this story. If you're invested in Elijah and Sarah's journey, make sure you've hit that subscribe button. Stay with me to see how these former sweethearts navigate this complicated situation. Chapter 4. Richard Howell approaches with the confident stride of a man accustomed to getting what he wants. His silver hair catches the sunlight, and his tailored suit seems jarringly out of place among the dusty vineyard rows. "Ms. Baldwin," he calls out, his smile not quite reaching his eyes. "I was in the area and thought I'd stop by to see if you'd reconsidered my offer." His gaze shifts to Elijah, and surprise flickers across his face before he masks it with practiced ease. "Elijah Castellanos. This is unexpected." "Howell," Elijah acknowledges coolly. "I could say the same." Sarah looks between the two men, sensing the undercurrent of tension. "Mr. Howell was just leaving," she says firmly. "We have nothing to discuss." "Oh, I think we do," Howell counters smoothly. "Especially now that I see Tech Fusion has taken an interest in Legacy Hill. I wonder, does your board know you're out here playing farmer, Elijah?" Elijah steps forward slightly, placing himself between Sarah and Howell. "I'm addressing an acquisition matter. Something I'm sure you understand, given your recent aggressive moves in the market." Howell's smile turns predatory. "Ah, so you noticed. Good. I was beginning to think Tech Fusion had lost its edge." He turns his attention back to Sarah. "Miss Baldwin, whatever Castellanos has offered you, I'll double it. This land is perfect for my new tech campus vision, close enough to San Francisco to attract talent, but far enough to escape those ridiculous city regulations. This land," Sarah says coldly, "is a working vineyard that employs 37 people and produces award-winning wines. It's not going to become a tech campus, not yours or anyone else's." "Everything has a price," Howell insists. "Even family legacy." "Not this one," Elijah interjects, surprising both Sarah and himself with his vehemence. "Legacy Hill stays a vineyard. That's non-negotiable." Howell studies Elijah with newfound interest. "Is that so? How fascinating." His gaze shifts between them, calculating. There's clearly more happening here than a simple business transaction. Old friends, perhaps? Or something more? Sarah straightens, her chin lifting slightly. "Mr. Howell, I've rejected your offers 3 times now. Nothing has changed except my patience, which is wearing dangerously thin. I suggest you leave before I have Manuel escort you out. As if on cue, the vineyard's foreman appears nearby, his muscular arms crossed over his chest, expression unwelcoming. Howell raises his hands in mock surrender. No need for that. I know when to make a strategic retreat. He reaches into his jacket, producing a business card that he extends to Sarah. When circumstances change, and they always do, my offer remains open. When Sarah makes no move to take the card, he tucks it into the wooden fence post beside them. Think about it, Miss Baldwin. Progress is inevitable. Better to profit from it than be crushed beneath its wheels. With a final assessing look at Elijah, he returns to his SUV and drives away in a cloud of dust. In the silence that follows, Sarah turns to Elijah, her expression a complex mixture of anger, confusion, and reluctant gratitude. Want to tell me what that was really about? Because that wasn't just about land. Elijah hesitates, then sighs. It's complicated. Then uncomplicated, Sarah insists. If we're going to consider any kind of partnership, I need total transparency. Before Elijah can respond, Lorraine appears at the top of the path, waving to get their attention. Sarah. Your father's asking for you. His physical therapist is here. Sarah gives Elijah a look that clearly says their conversation isn't over. I need to go. But I expect answers, Elijah. Real ones. As she walks away, Elijah pulls out his phone to call Howard, certain that Howell's appearance isn't coincidental. The pieces are starting to come together, and he doesn't like the picture they're forming. The next morning finds Sarah and Elijah seated at opposite sides of the large oak table in the vineyard's conference room. Lorraine sits beside Sarah, laptop open, while Howard has joined via video call on Elijah's tablet. The atmosphere is professional but strained. Let's be clear about exactly what we're proposing, Sarah begins, all business now. Tech Fusion would provide capital investment for modernization and expansion, while I maintain complete operational control of Legacy Hill. Correct, Elijah confirms. We'd be silent partners from an operational standpoint. Our legal team has drafted preliminary documents reflecting these terms. Howard nods from the screen, indicating the documents have been sent. Lorraine opens the email on her laptop, scanning quickly. These look comprehensive, but our lawyer will need to review them thoroughly. Of course, Howard agrees. We anticipated that. Take all the time you need. Sarah leans forward, eyes fixed on Elijah. And what exactly does Tech Fusion get out of this arrangement, beyond this vague, strategic foothold you've mentioned? Elijah meets her gaze directly. Protection against Howell's expansion plans. Your vineyard sits in the middle of land he's been quietly acquiring. Without Legacy Hill, his campus vision falls apart. So I'm just a pawn in your corporate chess match, Sarah says flatly. No, Elijah counters quickly. You're a valuable partner whose interests happen to align with ours at this moment. This isn't just about blocking Howell, it's about creating something mutually beneficial. Sarah's skepticism is evident, but she gestures for him to continue. Tech Fusion has been developing agricultural technology that could significantly enhance your sustainable farming practices, Elijah explains, warming to the subject. Sensor systems, water management innovations, predictive analytics for optimal harvest timing, all designed to work with traditional methods, not replace them. For the first time since the negotiations began, Sarah looks genuinely interested. Show me. Elijah pulls up schematics and trial results on his tablet, sliding it across to her. As Sarah examines the data, her expression shifts from skepticism to cautious curiosity. These soil moisture sensors could reduce our water usage by 30%, she murmurs, almost to herself. And increase yield quality by 15% in drought conditions, Elijah adds, coming around to stand beside her, pointing to specific data points. We've been testing them in Napa, but haven't found the right partner for full implementation. Their shoulders nearly touch as they both focus on the screen. For a moment, it feels like Stanford again, the two of them analyzing data together, finishing each other's thoughts. This predictive analytics system, Sarah says, swiping to another page. It could help us time our harvest more precisely. Exactly, Elijah agrees, enthusiasm in his voice. The system learns from your decisions over time, enhancing your expertise rather than replacing it. Sarah looks up at him, their faces suddenly close. This is actually impressive. Something shifts in the air between them, a brief flicker of their old connection, the intellectual spark that had once drawn them together so powerfully. Howard clears his throat from the tablet screen, breaking the moment. There's also potential marketing synergy here. Tech Fusion's environmental initiatives paired with Legacy Hill's sustainable practices makes for compelling corporate storytelling. Storytelling, Sarah repeats, leaning back slightly. Is that what this is? Elijah returns to his seat, the professional distance reinstated. It's business, Sarah. But it doesn't have to be cold or exploitative. This partnership could genuinely benefit both sides. Sarah studies him for a long moment, then turns to Lorraine. What do you think? Lorraine, who has been quietly observing, closes her laptop. The technology is impressive, and the terms seem fair. But she hesitates, glancing at Elijah. There's still the question of trust. A valid concern, Elijah acknowledges. Which is why every protection you want will be written into the contract. Your operational control, employment guarantees for your workers, land use restrictions, all legally binding. Sarah drums her fingers on the table, thinking. I want to see these systems in action before I decide anything. And I want to speak with other vineyard owners who've implemented them. Of course, Elijah agrees readily. I can arrange site visits as early as next week. And I want complete transparency regarding Howell, Sarah adds firmly. If Tech Fusion is using my vineyard as a chess piece, I need to know all the moves on the board. Elijah hesitates, then nods. That's fair. Howard, can you brief them on what we know about Howell's activities? As Howard begins detailing Howell's land acquisitions and apparent strategy, Sarah watches Elijah closely. Something still doesn't quite add up, his personal involvement, his willingness to accommodate her terms, the way he defended the vineyard to Howell. There are pieces of this puzzle she can't yet see. Late that afternoon, after hours of negotiations and planning, Sarah shows Elijah their most innovative sustainable practices, natural pest management, water reclamation systems, the cover crop program that has dramatically reduced their need for fertilizers. These nitrogen-fixing plants replenish the soil naturally, she explains, kneeling to examine a row of green shoots between the vines. It's slower than chemical fertilizers, but better for the long-term health of the vineyard. Elijah crouches beside her, genuinely interested. How long did it take to see results? 3 seasons before we really noticed the difference. Dad thought I was crazy at first. Sarah smiles at the memory. He was used to immediate results, but eventually he saw that sometimes the slow way is the right way. Their eyes meet briefly, the parallel to their current situation, and perhaps their past, hanging unspoken between them. As the sun begins to set, bathing the vineyard in golden light, they end up on the back porch of the main house, sharing a bottle of Legacy Hill's award-winning Cabernet. The wine has loosened the tension somewhat, allowing glimpses of their former ease with each other. Remember that business plan we wrote? Elijah asks suddenly. Tech Fusion and Vine? Sarah looks surprised. You remember that? Of course I do. It was brilliant. Your marketing vision combined with my tech approach. He twirls the wine in his glass, watching the light play through the rich red liquid. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if we'd actually pursued it together. We'll never know, Sarah says softly. We made different choices. Did we choose, though? Or did circumstances choose for us? Elijah sets his glass down, turning to face her fully. Sarah, about what happened back then. The moment is shattered by Elijah's phone ringing sharply. He glances at the screen and his expression immediately hardens. I have to take this. It's about Howell. Sarah nods, the brief window of vulnerability closing as Elijah stands and walks a few steps away to take the call. She watches him, noting how his body language shifts back into corporate mode, spine straightening, shoulders squaring, voice taking on an authoritative edge. What do you mean, he's making an announcement tomorrow? She hears him say sharply. About what? How reliable is this information? As Elijah continues his conversation, growing increasingly agitated, Sarah slips inside to check on her father. She finds James in his study, reviewing old vineyard logs. How's it going with your tech mogul? He asks, eyes twinkling with interest. He's not my tech mogul, Sarah corrects automatically. And it's complicated. James sets aside his reading glasses. Business is always complicated. People even more so. Put them together, and you've got quite a tangle. He studies her face. But that's not what's bothering you, is it? Sarah sinks into the chair across from him. I don't know if I can trust him, Dad. 15 years ago, when it came down to a choice between me and his ambitions, I lost. What happens when those same ambitions conflict with what's best for Legacy Hill? People change, baby girl, James says gently. 15 years is a long time. The question isn't who he was then, it's who he is now. Their conversation is interrupted by Elijah appearing in the doorway, his expression grim. I'm sorry to interrupt, but something's happened. I need to get back to San Francisco immediately. What is it? Sarah asks, alarmed by his tone. Elijah hesitates, glancing at James. Business emergency. I'll call you tomorrow with details. As he turns to leave, Sarah follows him out to his car. Elijah, wait. What's really going on? Under the porch light, his face looks tense, conflicted. Howell is making some kind of announcement tomorrow that my team thinks involves Legacy Hill. I need to get back to headquarters to prepare a response. Involves my vineyard how? Sarah demands. I don't know yet, Elijah admits. But I promise, as soon as I do, you'll be the first to know. He opens his car door, then pauses. Sarah, despite everything that's happened between us, I want you to know, I won't let Howell or anyone else hurt Legacy Hill. You have my word on that. Before she can respond, he's in his car and driving away, leaving Sarah standing alone under the porch light, wondering if his word means now what it did 15 years ago, and why, despite everything, part of her still wants to believe in him. Chapter 5. The headlines break early the next morning. Howell Enterprises announces revolutionary green tech campus in Napa Valley. Sarah stares at her phone in disbelief as she reads the press release. Howell Enterprises is proud to announce the acquisition of over 500 acres in Napa Valley for development of our groundbreaking green tech campus, a carbon-neutral facility that will serve as both corporate headquarters and innovation center focused on sustainable technology solutions. The central jewel of this campus will be the historic Legacy Hill Vineyard, which will be preserved and enhanced as the heart of our commitment to agricultural innovation. But that's a lie, she whispers, hands shaking. He doesn't own Legacy Hill. Her phone rings, Elijah's name flashing on the screen. She answers immediately. Have you seen this? He's claiming he's acquired my vineyard. I've seen it, Elijah confirms, his voice tight with controlled anger. It's a manipulation. He's trying to create confusion in the market and pressure you to sell. Sarah, I need you to trust me. Can you come to San Francisco today? There's something you need to see. 3 hours later, Sarah walks into TechFusion's headquarters, a sleek tower of glass and steel in downtown San Francisco. The contrast with Legacy Hill couldn't be more striking, yet as Elijah leads her through the bustling office to a secure conference room, she's surprised to find herself not entirely uncomfortable in this environment. Howard is waiting for them, along with a serious-looking woman Elijah introduces as Miranda Chen, Tech Fusion's head of security. "Thank you for coming," Elijah begins once they're seated. "What I'm about to show you doesn't leave this room." He nods to Miranda, who brings up a series of documents on the large screen. 3 months ago, we detected unusual patterns in our acquisition pipeline, Miranda explains. Potential deals suddenly falling through, targets receiving competing offers hours after we expressed interest. Analysis pointed to an information leak. We suspected Howard continues, but couldn't prove it until recently. Miranda brings up emails, financial records, and surveillance photos. Howell placed a mole in our legal department, someone with access to our acquisition targets and negotiation strategies. Sarah leans forward, studying the evidence. "And what does this have to do with my vineyard?" Elijah takes a deep breath. The vineyard acquisition wasn't an accident. It was deliberately engineered by Howell. Sarah's head snaps up. "What?" "The paperwork for Legacy Hill was intentionally bundled with the tech properties I was actually targeting," Elijah explains. "Our compromised employee ensured I wouldn't notice until it was too late." "But why would Howell want you to buy my vineyard if he wants it for himself?" Sarah asks, confusion evident. "Because," Howard says grimly, "if you lost the vineyard to a faceless corporation rather than selling willingly, community sentiment would turn against Tech Fusion." Meanwhile, Howell publicly positions himself as the white knight offering to preserve Legacy Hill as part of his green campus. "The scandal would hurt Tech Fusion's stock, damage our reputation, and hand Howell both a PR victory and the land he wants," Miranda concludes. 3 birds, 1 stone. Sarah sits back, stunned. "So my vineyard is just collateral damage in your corporate war?" "No," Elijah says firmly. "You were specifically targeted because of me." "Because of you?" Sarah repeats. "What does that mean?" Elijah looks uncomfortable. Howell did his research. He knew about our history, about Stanford, about us. He's using that connection as leverage. Sarah processes this, her expression hardening. "So this isn't just business. It's personal." "For Howell, everything is business," Elijah corrects. But he's not above using personal connections as pressure points. He hesitates, then adds more quietly, "And he wasn't wrong that it would work." The implication hangs in the air, that Sarah remains Elijah's vulnerability, even after 15 years. "So what's your plan?" Sarah asks finally, her voice carefully neutral. "We have several options," Howard begins, but Elijah interrupts. "No, Howard. No more strategies that treat Sarah and Legacy Hill as chess pieces." He turns to Sarah, his expression more open and honest than she's seen since their college days. "This is your vineyard, your life. What do you want to do?" The directness of the question catches Sarah off guard. She studies Elijah's face, searching for any trace of manipulation or calculation, but finds only sincerity. "I want to keep my vineyard," she says simply. "I want to protect my father's legacy and my workers' livelihoods. And I want Howell to understand that neither my land nor my life are pawns in his game." Elijah nods slowly. "Then that's what we'll make happen." He turns to Howard and Miranda. "Prepare a joint press conference for tomorrow morning. Sarah and I will announce a partnership that makes it absolutely clear Legacy Hill remains a working vineyard under her operational control." "And Howell's false announcement?" Howard asks. "We correct the record publicly and firmly," Elijah replies. "No legal threats yet, those we save for private channels." After the others leave to make arrangements, Sarah and Elijah remain in the conference room. "Thank you," Sarah says quietly, "for being straightforward with me." Elijah looks at her with an expression she can't quite read. I've learned the hard way that shortcuts and manipulations might work in business, but they destroy what matters most. He hesitates, then adds, I lost you once because I couldn't see beyond my ambitions. I won't make that mistake again, not with Legacy Hill, and not with you. Elijah. Sarah begins, uncertain how to respond to such directness. I'm not asking for anything, he clarifies quickly. Just telling you where I stand. This partnership, it's not just about blocking Howell or strategic advantage. It's about making things right. Their eyes hold for a long moment, 15 years of unspoken words and feelings suspended between them. I should go, Sarah says finally. There's a lot to prepare before tomorrow. As they walk through TechFusion's lobby toward the exit, Sarah notices employees watching them curiously, their CEO with this unknown woman who clearly doesn't belong in their sleek corporate world. But for the first time since reuniting with Elijah, she doesn't feel entirely out of place beside him. Something is shifting, bridges beginning to form across the chasm that has separated them for so long. The press conference goes exactly as planned, a unified front that leaves no room for Howell's manipulation. Sarah speaks eloquently about Legacy Hill's sustainable practices and the potential of agricultural technology to enhance rather than replace traditional methods. Elijah announces TechFusion's commitment to preserving the vineyard's integrity while bringing innovation to viticulture. Howell's subsequent retraction, claiming his announcement was anticipatory rather than factual, satisfies no one and damages his credibility. The narrative quickly shifts from corporate takeover to innovative partnership, with Legacy Hill positioned as a forward-thinking vineyard embracing the future while honoring tradition. In the days that follow, Elijah surprises Sarah by spending more time at the vineyard than necessary for their business arrangements. When she questions this, he simply says, I want to understand what I've invested in. Gradually, reluctantly, Sarah begins including him in daily operations, harvest preparations, equipment maintenance, quality control tastings. To her surprise, Elijah approaches these tasks with genuine interest and humility, asking questions and listening carefully to the answers. You're not what I expected, Manuel tells Elijah one afternoon as they repair an irrigation line together, Elijah's expensive watch set aside, his hands covered in mud. What did you expect? Elijah asks, tightening a connection as Manuel has shown him. Someone soft. Arrogant. The kind who gives orders but has never done the work. Manuel shrugs. Silicon Valley types who think everything can be solved with an app. Elijah laughs, surprising himself. Fair assessment, generally speaking. I was probably exactly that a few weeks ago. So what changed? Manuel asks bluntly. The question catches Elijah off guard. What has changed? When did fixing irrigation lines in a vineyard begin to feel more meaningful than board meetings in his sleek tower? Perspective, I guess, he answers finally. Seeing value in something different than what I've been chasing for 15 years. Later that evening, Sarah finds Elijah on the porch, reviewing the implementation plans for the new sensor systems. She hands him a glass of wine and sits beside him. Manuel says you're not terrible at irrigation repair, she remarks, a hint of teasing in her voice. High praise, coming from him. I'm honored, Elijah responds with a small smile. Though I'm fairly certain he let me think I was helping while actually doing most of it himself. That's Manuel's way, Sarah agrees. He doesn't suffer fools, but he respects effort. She studies Elijah's profile in the fading light. You don't have to do this, you know. The physical work. The partnership agreement is signed. The press has moved on. You've accomplished what you needed to against Howell. Elijah sets aside the tablet, turning to face her. What if this isn't just about Howell anymore? Then what is it about? Sarah asks quietly. Before he can answer, they're interrupted by the arrival of Lorraine's car, followed by several others. Sarah checks her watch and stands up. I completely lost track of time. The community meeting is tonight. Community meeting? Elijah repeats, confused. Monthly gathering of local vineyard owners and workers, Sarah explains, gathering her notes. We discuss shared challenges, coordinate on environmental initiatives, support each other. Tonight is harvest planning. Elijah rises. I should go, then. Let you handle this. Actually, Sarah says, surprising herself, I think you should stay. If tech fusion technology is going to be implemented here, the community should understand how it works. They trust my judgment, but they'd appreciate hearing directly from you. The meeting takes place in Legacy Hill's main barn, converted for the evening with rows of chairs and a simple podium. About 50 people file in, a mix of owners, vintners, field workers, and their families. Elijah feels conspicuously out of place in his button-down shirt among their work clothes and casual attire, but to his surprise, several people greet him warmly, having heard about the partnership. Sarah opens the meeting with updates on regional concerns, water conservation strategies, predictions for the coming harvest, shared equipment schedules. Then, with minimal preamble, she introduces Elijah. As most of you know, Legacy Hill has entered a partnership with Tech Fusion to implement new agricultural technology systems. I've invited Elijah Castellanos to explain how these systems work and answer your questions. As Elijah moves to the front, he's acutely aware of the scrutiny from these people whose livelihoods depend on the land. For perhaps the first time in his career, he finds himself nervous about a presentation. Thank you for including me tonight, he begins, then abandons his usual polished corporate speak for something more direct. I'll be honest. 3 weeks ago, I knew nothing about vineyards except that I enjoy the end product. I'm still learning. But what I do understand is technology that can help reduce water usage, predict optimal harvest times, and enhance the sustainable practices that make this region special. To his relief, the audience responds positively to his candor. When he demonstrates the soil moisture sensors and predictive analytics systems, genuine interest replaces initial skepticism. Questions come rapid-fire, practical, insightful queries that challenge him to think beyond Tech Fusion's lab testing to real-world implementation. Will the system work during power outages? How long does sensor calibration take for different soil types? Can the data be accessed by workers in the field without returning to a central computer? Elijah handles each question thoughtfully, admitting when he doesn't know an answer and promising to find out. By the end of the session, what began as a potentially hostile audience has become engaged and cautiously optimistic. As the meeting transitions to a social gathering with food and local wines, Elijah finds himself drawn into conversations with vineyard workers and owners alike. Sarah watches from across the room as he speaks animatedly with an older vintner, genuinely absorbed in the discussion. Well, would you look at that, Lorraine murmurs, coming to stand beside Sarah. Silicon Valley is going native. Sarah smiles despite herself. He's certainly trying. Lorraine observes. And why do you think that is? The technology implementation requires community buy-in, Sarah answers practically. Lorraine gives her a knowing look. Is that what we're calling it now? Before Sarah can respond, a commotion at the door draws their attention. James Baldwin has arrived, walking with his cane but looking stronger than he has in months. The community greets him warmly. He was the heart of this gathering for decades before his health forced him to step back. Sarah watches with a strange tightness in her chest as her father makes his way directly to Elijah. The two men shake hands, James saying something that makes Elijah laugh, then grow serious. They move to a quieter corner, deep in conversation. What do you think they're talking about? Sarah asks Lorraine nervously. With your father? Probably giving him the shovel talk, Lorraine suggests with a grin. Don't be ridiculous, Sarah protests. Elijah and I aren't, it's not like that. Isn't it? Lorraine raises an eyebrow. Honey, I've known you since college. I remember how you were with him then, and I see how you look at him now. Sarah sighs, unable to deny it completely. It's complicated, Lorraine. We're different people now. And even if there are feelings resurfacing, our lives are completely separate. He runs a multi-billion-dollar tech company in San Francisco. I run a vineyard in Napa. Those worlds don't exactly mesh. Don't they? Lorraine gestures around the barn, where Elijah is now engaged with a group of workers, no longer looking out of place despite his city clothes. Because from where I'm standing, he seems to be figuring out how to bridge those worlds pretty effectively. Later, as the gathering winds down, Sarah finds Elijah helping with cleanup, sleeve rolled up as he stacks chairs with Manuel and other workers. You don't have to do that, she tells him, taking chairs from his hands. You're a guest. Partner, he corrects with a small smile. And partners help. Something in the way he says it, simple, sincere, makes Sarah's carefully maintained defenses waver. For 15 years, she's told herself that Elijah chose ambition over love, that when faced with a choice between her and tech fusion, she would always lose. But watching him now, integrated into her world in a way she never imagined possible, she wonders if perhaps they've both been given a second chance to make a different choice. As they walk back to the main house under a canopy of stars, Elijah stops suddenly, looking up at the night sky. I'd forgotten what stars actually look like, he says quietly. In the city, you can barely see them. Sarah follows his gaze upward. Dad used to say that's why wine tastes better in the country, because it's aged under proper stars. Elijah smiles at that. Your father is a wise man. We had a good talk tonight. Should I be worried? Sarah asks, only half joking. No, Elijah assures her. He just wanted to make sure I understood what Legacy Hill means, not just to your family, but to this community. He hesitates, then adds, and he told me not to make the same mistake twice. The implication hangs between them, a reference to their past, to choices made and paths not taken. Elijah. Sarah begins, but is interrupted by her phone ringing urgently. She checks the screen. It's Howard. Why would he be calling me this late? The moment broken, they both sense that whatever might have been said will have to wait. Sarah answers the call, her expression quickly shifting to concern. Howard, slow down. What leaked documents? What press release? She listens intently, then looks at Elijah with alarm. We'll be right there. What is it? Elijah asks as she ends the call. Howl, Sarah says grimly. He's made another move, and this time, it's not just about the vineyard. It's about us. Chapter 6. Despite the looming threat from Howl, leaked emails suggesting the Tech Fusion Legacy Hill partnership is a tax fraud scheme, anonymous sources claiming Elijah is exploiting a former relationship, preparations for Legacy Hill's annual Harvest Festival continue. The celebration is too important to the community and vineyard workers to cancel, even with crisis management occupying much of Sarah and Elijah's attention. We've issued denials and our legal team is preparing cease and desist orders, Howard informs them the morning of the festival. But Howell's planted just enough truth among the lies to make it sticky. The markets are responding, Tech Fusion stock dropped 6% at opening. And subscription cancellations for our wine club have started coming in, Lorraine adds grimly. People are believing the fraud allegations. Elijah paces the conference room they've set up in the vineyard's main office. Howell's weaponizing our past connection, Sarah. I'm sorry you've been dragged into this. I'm not exactly thrilled, Sarah admits, but running away and hiding won't solve anything. The festival goes on as planned. We show a united front and prove there's nothing underhanded about our partnership. By late afternoon, the vineyard transforms into a celebration of harvest season. Strings of lights crisscross the central courtyard, long tables laden with food line one side, and a small stage hosts local musicians. Workers and their families, neighboring vineyard owners, and loyal customers mingle together, creating a vibrant, joyful atmosphere that temporarily pushes back the shadow of Howell's attacks. To Sarah's surprise, Elijah appears completely at ease, having exchanged his business casual attire for jeans and a simple button-down shirt that helps him blend with the crowd. He moves through the gathering with unexpected confidence, greeting workers by name, discussing harvest projections with neighboring vintners, even joining in when Manuel challenges him to a grape-stomping competition that leaves them both laughing and purple-footed. "Who is that man, and what has he done with the uptight CEO I met 3 weeks ago?" Lorraine murmurs to Sarah as they watch Elijah chat animatedly with a group of vineyard workers. "I don't know," Sarah admits, a small smile playing at her lips. "But I think I like him." As evening descends and the festival lights twinkle against the darkening sky, a local band begins playing dance music. The courtyard fills with couples and families, the community celebrating together despite the uncertainties looming over Legacy Hill. James Baldwin appears at Sarah's side, looking better than he has in months. "Your mother and I danced at every harvest festival for 32 years, he says, nostalgia softening his voice. "She loved this night most of all." Sarah squeezes his hand. "I know, Dad. I remember. She'd be proud of you, baby girl. Of what you've built here, of how you've handled everything thrown your way." He nods toward Elijah, who's listening intently to an elderly vintner's story. "And I think she'd approve of him too, of the man he's become." "Dad," Sarah begins to protest, but James just smiles knowingly. "I may be old, but I'm not blind. There's still something there between you two, something worth exploring." He pats her hand. "Life doesn't often give second chances, Sarah. Don't let fear keep you from seeing this one through." As James moves away to join a group of his old friends, Elijah approaches Sarah, slightly hesitant. "Your community really knows how to celebrate," he comments, nodding toward the dancing couples. "It's important to mark the moments that matter," Sarah replies. "To remember why we do all this hard work in the first place." The band transitions to a slower song, and Elijah extends his hand. "Would you dance with me?" Sarah hesitates for only a moment before placing her hand in his. "I'd like that." Elijah leads her to the edge of the makeshift dance floor, where the golden glow of string lights creates pockets of warmth against the deepening twilight. His hand finds her waist with a gentle confidence that surprises her, and they begin to move together to the slow melody. "I'm sorry about all this," he murmurs. "The last thing I wanted was to bring more trouble to Legacy Hill." Sarah studies his face, the worry lines that hadn't been there 15 years ago, the earnestness in his eyes that reminds her of the younger man she'd once loved. "You didn't bring the trouble," she says. "Howell did. And we'll face it together." They dance in silence for a moment, finding a rhythm that feels both new and achingly familiar. "You're different here," Sarah observes. "More relaxed, more, you." A rueful smile crosses Elijah's face. "I suppose I am. Legacy Hill has a way of stripping away pretenses. Always did. Is that why you avoided coming back for so long?" His steps falter slightly. "Partly. It's hard to confront the person you used to be, especially when you're not entirely proud of the choices you've made." "And now?" "Now," he says, his voice dropping lower, "I'm starting to wonder if I've been running from the wrong things all these years." The music builds toward its crescendo, and Sarah feels the weight of unspoken words between them. 15 years of missed opportunities and might-have-beens hover in the small space they share. Before she can respond, Manuel interrupts with an apologetic smile. "Sorry, boss, but we've got a problem. Reporters at the main gate, lots of them. They're asking about the fraud allegations." The spell breaks. Sarah steps back, her expression shifting from wistful to determined in an instant. "Tell Miguel not to let them in. This is a private event." "Too late," Elijah says grimly, nodding toward the entrance. "They're already here." A small contingent of journalists makes their way through the festival, cameras and microphones at the ready. At their center walks a woman in a tailored blazer, her predatory smile visible even at a distance. Cassandra Wells, Elijah mutters. Howell's favorite attack dog from the business press. Mr. Castellanos. Miss Baldwin. Wells calls as she approaches. Care to comment on the allegations that your partnership is actually an elaborate tax shelter? Or perhaps on your romantic history and whether it influenced TechFusion's decision to invest in a failing vineyard? The music stops abruptly. Festival-goers turn to stare, conversations hushing as they sense the confrontation unfolding. Sarah steps forward, her voice carrying across the suddenly quiet courtyard. Legacy Hill is hosting a private celebration for our community. I'm going to have to ask you to leave. The public has a right to know if one of California's most promising tech companies is engaging in corporate fraud, Wells persists, her cameramen capturing every moment. Or if personal relationships are driving business decisions that harm shareholders. There is no fraud, Elijah says firmly. Our partnership with Legacy Hill represents a legitimate investment in sustainable agricultural technology. The SEC filings are comprehensive and transparent. Then why the secrecy? Why the rush to close the deal before the end of the quarter? Before either can respond, James Baldwin pushes through the crowd, his face flushed with anger. This is private property. You weren't invited, and you're not welcome. Mr. Baldwin, Wells pivots smoothly, as Legacy Hill's founder, how do you feel about your daughter's relationship with? That's enough. Sarah interjects. Security will escort you out. Now. As Miguel and two other workers move toward the journalists, Wells makes one final attempt. Sources close to Richard Howell suggest that you two have been planning this scheme for years, that your supposed estrangement was just for show. Elijah laughs, the sound sharp and incredulous. If that were true, we deserve Academy Awards. Sarah and I hadn't spoken in 15 years before I came back to Legacy Hill. Then perhaps you can explain these, Wells says triumphantly, producing a folder. Emails between TechFusion and Legacy Hill dating back 3 years, long before this partnership was announced publicly. Sarah snatches the folder and flips it open, Elijah looking over her shoulder. Inside are printouts of email exchanges discussing irrigation systems, soil sensors, and harvest projections, all with Legacy Hill's letterhead. I've never seen these, Sarah says, her brow furrowing as she scans the documents. These aren't from my email account. Elijah takes the papers, his face darkening as he examines them more closely. These are forgeries. Good ones, but forgeries nonetheless. Convenient explanation, Wells remarks with mock sympathy. Lorraine pushes forward, her eyes blazing. Get out. Now. Or I'll personally ensure you never get access to another tech story in Silicon Valley. As security begins escorting the journalists toward the exit, Sarah notices something, a flicker of movement at the edge of the crowd. Richard Howell stands partly concealed behind a large oak tree, watching the chaos unfold with undisguised satisfaction. Their eyes meet, and he offers a small, mocking salute before turning to slip away into the darkness. He's here, Sarah hisses, grabbing Elijah's arm. Howell is here. Elijah follows her gaze just in time to see Howell's retreating figure. Without hesitation, he takes off after him, Sarah close behind. They chase him through rows of grapevines, the festival lights growing dimmer behind them. Howell is surprisingly quick, but his unfamiliarity with the terrain slows him down. As they reach a clearing near the old processing barn, Elijah catches up, grabbing Howell's shoulder and spinning him around. Enjoying the show? Elijah demands, his voice tight with barely controlled anger. Howell straightens his jacket, seemingly unfazed. Just observing the fallout. Public opinion turns quickly, doesn't it? One moment you're Silicon Valley's golden boy, the next you're just another corrupt executive exploiting old connections. Why? Sarah asks, stepping forward. Why go to all this trouble? What's Legacy Hill to you? It's not about your little vineyard, Howell sneers. It's about him. He jabs a finger toward Elijah. Always getting everything he wants, always landing on his feet. The board was supposed to be mine after Lawrence stepped down. I earned it. I deserved it. So this is revenge? Elijah shakes his head in disbelief. You're fabricating evidence and manipulating the press because you're bitter about a board decision? It's not just about the board, Howell snarls, his composure cracking. It's about you taking everything I've ever wanted. First at Stanford, then at Tech Fusion. Always Elijah Castellanos, the prodigy, the visionary, while I did the real work behind the scenes. Sarah watches this exchange with growing understanding. The emails, she says suddenly. They're not just forgeries, they're your work, aren't they? You've been planning this for years. A cold smile spreads across Howell's face. Let's just say I like to be thorough. And when I learned about your history with Elijah, well, it was too perfect. The brilliant CEO risking company assets to save his college sweetheart's failing business? The shareholders will crucify you both. You won't get away with this, Elijah says quietly. Forgery is a crime. Corporate espionage is a crime. Prove it, Howell challenges. By the time you clear your names, if you ever do, Tech Fusion will be looking for new leadership, and I'll be the obvious choice to right the ship. He glances at his watch. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a late meeting with several major shareholders who are very concerned about tonight's revelations. As he turns to leave, Sarah steps forward, blocking his path. You're not going anywhere. Actually, says a new voice, he isn't. They all turn to see Howard standing at the edge of the clearing, his phone held up. I've been recording this entire conversation. Confessing to forgery and corporate sabotage on camera, not your smartest move, Richard. Behind him stands Cassandra Wells, her expression now thoughtful rather than predatory. I suspected something was off when Mr. Howell approached me with those emails. The timing was too convenient, the evidence too perfect. You were in on this? Sarah asks incredulously. Wells shakes her head. Not in the way you think. I've known Howard for years, we worked together in New York. When he told me what was happening, I agreed to play along until we could catch Howell in the act. Howell's face contorts with rage. You set me up. No, Elijah corrects him. You set yourself up. We just gave you enough rope. The real question, Howard adds, is whether the board will want this handled quietly or if they'd prefer to see you prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. The fight drains from Howell's posture. This isn't over, he mutters, but the threat sounds hollow even to his own ears. Actually, Sarah says, I think it is. Chapter 7. Back at the festival, the damage control begins immediately. Wells, now an unexpected ally, agrees to publish the full story, including Howell's confession and the truth about the partnership between Tech Fusion and Legacy Hill. It won't undo all the harm, Howard warns as they regroup in the main office, but it's a start. And I've already reached out to our major shareholders to explain the situation. What about the emails? Sarah asks. How do we prove they're forgeries? Digital forensics, Elijah explains. Every email leaves metadata trails. Howell's good, but not good enough to fake those completely. It'll take time, but we'll clear our names. Lorraine looks up from her tablet. Social media's already picking up on Wells' initial report. The tide's turning, people love a corporate villain, and Howell fits the bill perfectly. We should get back to the festival, Sarah suggests. Show everyone there's nothing to hide. As they walk back toward the celebration, Elijah gently pulls Sarah aside. We never finished our dance, he says softly. She smiles, the weight of the confrontation beginning to lift. Rain check? Actually, he hesitates, then continues with newfound resolve, I was hoping for more than just a dance. Sarah raises an eyebrow. What did you have in mind? Dinner. Just the two of us. No business talk, no crisis management. Just catching up. Like a date? Exactly like a date. He takes a deep breath. 15 years ago, I made the biggest mistake of my life walking away from you. I'm not asking for us to pick up where we left off, but I'd like the chance to see if there's still something worth exploring. Sarah studies him for a long moment. What happens when this is all over? When the crisis passes and you need to go back to your real life in San Francisco? That's just it, Elijah says. These past weeks have made me realize that my real life has been missing something essential. Something I only seem to find when I'm here, when I'm with you. She wants to believe him, but caution holds her back. We're different people now, Elijah. We want different things. Do we? He gestures toward the vineyard stretching out around them. You built something meaningful here. Something that matters. And I've spent 15 years building something that looks impressive on paper but doesn't feed my soul the way this place does. What are you saying? I'm saying I'm tired of running. From my past, from what I really want. He takes her hand. The board meeting is next week. After that, win or lose, I'm making changes. Real ones. The sincerity in his eyes makes her heart ache with possibilities she'd long ago abandoned. But before she can respond, Miguel appears with an urgent expression. Miss Baldwin, you need to come quickly. It's your father. James Baldwin lies in a hospital bed, his face pale but his expression oddly peaceful. The doctors have stabilized him, a mild heart attack, brought on by the stress and excitement of the evening, but the incident serves as a stark reminder of his fragility. Quite a dramatic exit from the festival, he jokes weakly as Sarah sits beside him. Not funny, Dad, she says, fighting back tears. You scared me half to death. I'm not going anywhere just yet, he assures her, patting her hand. Too stubborn to leave before seeing how this all turns out. Over the next few days, Legacy Hill returns to a tentative normalcy. Workers continue the harvest, processing equipment hums with activity, and the fallout from Howell's scheme begins to settle. With James recovering in the hospital, Sarah divides her time between overseeing operations and caring for her father. Elijah proves unexpectedly helpful, stepping in to manage the tech fusion side of things while offering support wherever needed at the vineyard. The crisis has forged an unlikely team, Sarah, Elijah, Lorraine, Howard, and even Manuel joining forces to keep both businesses running smoothly in the midst of chaos. A week later, Elijah faces the Tech Fusion board in San Francisco. This wasn't how I planned to present my vision for the company's future, he begins, standing confidently before the assembled directors, but recent events have crystallized something I've been considering for some time. He outlines his proposal, a new division within Tech Fusion dedicated to agricultural technology, headquartered not in Silicon Valley but at Legacy Hill itself. The vineyard would serve as both testing ground and showcase for innovations that could revolutionize farming practices throughout California and beyond. As for leadership, Elijah continues, I'm proposing a restructuring. Howard Thompson has more than proven himself capable of taking on the CEO role here in San Francisco. I would step back to become Chief Innovation Officer, focusing on the new agricultural division while maintaining my board seat. The directors exchange glances, their expressions ranging from surprise to intrigue. And where would you be based in this new arrangement, asks Diane Keller, the board chair. Primarily at Legacy Hill, Elijah admits. With regular trips back to headquarters as needed. After hours of deliberation, the board reaches a decision, conditional approval of Elijah's proposal, pending a 6-month trial period and quarterly performance reviews. It's not perfect, Elijah tells Sarah later that evening as they walk through the vineyard's eastern section, where the sunset paints the landscape in hues of gold and crimson. But it's a start. You're really doing this? She asks, still processing the implications. Stepping down as CEO, moving to wine country? I am. Though I'm still looking for a place to live, he adds with a small smile. Got any recommendations? Sarah laughs, the sound carrying across the quiet rows of vines. I might know of a guest house that's available. They pause atop a small rise overlooking the valley, where Legacy Hill's vineyards stretch out in neat, orderly rows. In the distance, the old barn stands surrounded by scaffolding, the restoration project back on track now that the partnership has been reaffirmed. It won't be easy, Sarah warns. Partnerships rarely are. Which partnership are we talking about? Elijah asks, his eyes holding hers. Business or personal? Both, she admits. Neither. I'm still figuring that out. He nods, accepting her hesitation. For what it's worth, I'm in no rush. Some things are worth taking time to get right. 3 months later, Legacy Hill hosts a small gathering to celebrate the successful implementation of their new irrigation system. The first of many collaborative projects between the Vineyard and TechFusion's agricultural division. James, now recovered and moving with the aid of a cane, raises a glass of their award-winning Cabernet. To new beginnings, he announces, his eyes twinkling as he glances between Sarah and Elijah. And to remembering where we came from while we figure out where we're going. Later, as evening falls and the guests begin to depart, Sarah finds Elijah standing in the old barn, now beautifully restored with a perfect blend of modern technology and rustic charm. So, she says, coming to stand beside him, Chief Innovation Officer Castellanos. How does it feel to be 3 months into your new life? Challenging. Exhausting. Absolutely worth it. He turns to face her. And you? How does it feel to be 3 months into our arrangement? Their arrangement has evolved cautiously, shared dinners, long conversations, and the slow rebuilding of trust. Not quite a relationship, but definitely more than a friendship. I'm starting to think we might get it right this time, Sarah admits, stepping closer. Because we're older and wiser? Elijah suggests. Because we finally want the same things. As if to prove her point, she rises on tiptoe and kisses him, tentatively at first, then with growing certainty. When they finally part, Elijah smiles. I think I'm going to like harvest season. Outside, the vineyard stretches toward the horizon, rows of vines silhouetted against the twilight sky, a living testament to the past they've honored and the future they're building, one careful step at a time. Chapter 8. The afternoon sun casts long shadows across Legacy Hill as workers move efficiently through the vineyard, harvesting grapes at their peak ripeness. This year's crop promises to be exceptional, the combined result of favorable weather conditions and the innovative growing techniques developed through the TechFusion partnership. In the courtyard, James Baldwin sits comfortably in an Adirondack chair, supervising as Manuel and a team of workers install a new sculpture, a modern piece commissioned to commemorate Legacy Hill's 40th anniversary. A little to the left, James directs, gesturing with his cane. Elena would have wanted it centered perfectly. Inside the main house, Sarah reviews the final details for the evening's celebration. The past year has brought remarkable changes to Legacy Hill. State-of-the-art processing facilities housed in beautifully restored historic buildings, a thriving wine club membership that's doubled since the previous autumn, and 3 new international distribution contracts. The caterers are all set, Lorraine reports, tablet in hand. And the first guests should arrive in about an hour. Howard just texted that he's on his way from the airport with the investors from Tokyo. And Elijah? Still in the tech barn, tinkering with his presentation. You know how he gets before these showcases. Sarah nods, smiling despite herself. Some things haven't changed, Elijah's perfectionism among them. She finds him exactly where Lorraine predicted, surrounded by holographic displays showing data from Legacy Hill's soil sensors, weather stations, and harvest projections. They're going to love it, she assures him, wrapping her arms around his waist from behind. Just like they love the irrigation system, the solar-powered processing equipment, and every other innovation you've introduced. Elijah turns in her embrace, his expression softening. How is it that you always know exactly what I need to hear? Practice, she says simply, reaching up to straighten his collar. A year of practice. Their relationship has deepened gradually, building on the foundation of their shared vision for Legacy Hill. The guest house has remained empty for months now, as Elijah's belongings have steadily migrated into the main house. Have you thought more about what we discussed last week? He asks, his tone carefully neutral. Sarah nods. I have. And I think you're right, it's time to start planning the next phase. The next phase represents their most ambitious project yet, a research and education center focused on sustainable vineyard practices, to be built on Legacy Hill's northern acreage. We'll announce it tonight, Sarah decides. After the toast to the anniversary. Elijah's smile broadens. Perfect timing. Speaking of timing. He glances at his watch. I should probably get cleaned up before the guests arrive. As he moves toward the door, Sarah calls after him, "Oh, and Elijah? Check your jacket pocket before you come down. I left something there you might want to see." Later, as twilight softens the landscape and string lights twinkle throughout the courtyard, Legacy Hill fills with guests celebrating 40 years of winemaking excellence. James holds court near the refreshment table, regaling younger vintners with stories from the early days. Howard and Lorraine discuss expansion plans with the Japanese investors. Manuel proudly leads tours of the processing facilities, where traditional techniques now work in harmony with cutting-edge technology. Sarah stands slightly apart, watching her father laugh at something Diane Keller from the Tech Fusion board has said. His health has stabilized over the past year, his role shifting from active management to beloved advisor, a transition he's accepted with surprising grace. "There you are," Elijah says, appearing at her side. His fingers find hers, squeezing gently. "I've been looking for you." "Just taking it all in," she explains, gesturing toward the gathering. "Sometimes I still can't believe how far we've come." "About that." Elijah's expression turns serious. "I found what you left in my pocket. And I think it's perfect." He produces the small velvet box she'd hidden hours earlier. "Though I'm a little confused about the role reversal. Isn't this typically the man's job?" Sarah laughs. "When have we ever done things the conventional way?" Elijah opens the box, revealing not an engagement ring, but a single key. "So this is the key to the old winemaker's cottage," she explains. "I'm thinking it's time we renovate it, make it our own place, separate from the main house." His expression softens with understanding. "A home, not just a house. For our future," she confirms. "Whatever that might include." Elijah pockets the key and pulls her close. "I like the sound of that." As the evening progresses, they gather their guests for the anniversary toast. Standing together at the center of the courtyard, Sarah and Elijah raise their glasses. To Legacy Hill, Sarah begins, to 40 years of passion and perseverance. And to the next 40, Elijah adds, his gaze finding hers. To honoring traditions while embracing change. Around them, friends, family, and colleagues lift their glasses in celebration, not just of the vineyard's past, but of the promising future unfolding before them, row by carefully tended row.